Good morning all. Right, here's a very quick post. It answers a question that is a begged question. It's a question that really does need to be asked by parents, students, when they're looking at studying their grammar school papers, their GCSEs, so that they can ace the results. And whether they're then going on to A-level work or perhaps going into a career via student studies in offices or to further education. Knowing the difference between maths learning and English learning is essential. It's basic, it's obvious, but I guarantee you that right now, today, there are students that aren't registering this, aren't doing this, and are missing opportunities. And the opportunities you missed yesterday, some of them have gone. The opportunities you missed a few weeks ago, some of them are gone. And the same thing applies to the opportunities to learn English and math. Some of them you've missed, or your children have missed, but if you know this and you follow this really simple rule, it's going to work. Okay, Charles here. So this is like a daily post I normally put up in the morning just to flag up and give some suggestions to students and parents. Okay, the number one difference between learning maths and learning English in the way that I tutor this is it's really simple. Maths is based around individual parts of the subject. So you've got algebra. You've got working out areas and shapes. You've got formulas. You may have, let's work out turning sentences into words and then developing an answer from that. You may need to know your way around powers. Now, yes, I agree. I agree that there is some overlap. But in the main, it's very unlikely that you're going to use a square root equation to work out say the length of a line. It's unlikely you're going to need the volume of a square, volume of a cube, to work out a normal, say, simultaneous equation, or to use the length of a line to work out a equals 3 plus 4z, or something like that. So what I'm saying is there are discrete parts to math. You can learn a part, learn a skill, bank it, practice it, and it's sort of horizontal, different chunks of maths. English is different. English is like popping a fountain pen and blobbing the fountain pen onto some capillary paper, blotting paper or tissue, and it spreads everywhere. And once it spreads, it's not really possible to say where it came from exactly. It sort of blurs and melts. And that's how it is with English. When learning English language, the English language itself, it's a whole hodgepodge. We've got English, we've got Latin, we've got Greek, we've got Italian, we've got a bit of German, a bit of French, bit of Esperanto, and then we've got made-up words. And then we've got words that are words from words. It's a real mix. Then we've got unusual rules. We've got certain, this is the way we do it, structure for the suffixes and prefixes. Oh no, but we don't. No, when these words come through, we don't. So you learn those. And then there's a variation. So the problem is, those rules don't get switched off depending upon how you're using them. It's not like I after E, except after C, for all those kind of words, as long as they, do, don't rhyme with B, all that jazz. Except if I'm writing an essay. I've got to remember to get the correct tense on my verbs. I've got to work out whether it's OS or OES for my plurals. Oh, but not if I'm writing as if I'm writing an essay that's in a newspaper. Another one might be if I'm going to write a letter in the past tense, as if I'd taken part in a famous battle. I haven't got to worry about putting in apostrophes, speech marks, and so on. No, I'm sorry. The reality is, everywhere that you write English, and everywhere that you, say, speak English, you've got to use the correct rules. Well, you don't have to. You can get it wrong if you want to. If you know the rule, you might choose to break it, like a colloquialism, slang, grammar. But you have to know what you're doing or should be doing correctly, so you can change the rule. Now, with maths, just as I've said, it doesn't work like that. The subjects are separate, and as you go further up the ladder, say into A level, into degree work, they're even more segregated. And some of the items that you've learnt that's got you there, or your children have got them there, they can let go of them. They just won't crop up again. But when it comes to English, the skills that you're learning at the early stage, those building blocks, are essential to support learning and understanding further down the line. So, the simplest thing to do is learn the drills, learn the basics, learn the rules. If your children don't fully, readily, easily grasp the rules, so that when they're looking at a question and they've got to prepare a written answer, perhaps in an 11 plus exam or in their GCSEs or further along, if they don't have those skills so that they can just pull them up out of their minds and know how to write what's needed to cogently, clearly, succinctly express what's needed in those answers to those questions, well, one, they're not going to get the right marks, and two, the problem is every time that we do things wrong and we're not corrected, we install a belief that what we're doing is correct, because, well, we're not going to want to do things wrong on purpose. So if your child doing something wrong and they're not getting the correction, that thing they're doing that's wrong, their brain is going to take it on board as the right way to do it. And every week or so I'm working with a student, boys and girls, all ages, and we'll often have the conversation with the parents that, my son X, daughter Y, they're good at this, they're good at that. And often it's the maths, when they say they're good at, that falls in line. But English will often have some of those fundamental building block levels of language that are wrong. If we think about maths for a minute, an example of building block knowledge, your times tables, your number bonds, being able to multiply, positives and negatives, divide, all that jazz, all that normally is ratified. It's there, it's locked down. We can't as a rule make too many glaring errors with those. But with English, we can be quite sloppy. Now, some of that is, to be frank, parents. Parents will sometimes make slip-ups, and children learn from their parents, so that can sort of just roll through into their vocabulary. So here is the time for here is the time for your children to learn how to do this right. And some of it comes from literally just taking a set of words, identifying 10 words they don't know today, putting them in a book, writing them down, and practicing them, knowing what they mean, what their opposites are, what their similarities are, and finding how to use them. If you watch a sports player that's learning a drill, learning a technique, a footballer or a tennis player, they will practice and practice and practice and practice. And then practice and practice and practice and practice. And then practice and practice and practice and practice until when they're under pressure and they have to make the point, have to make the shot, have to score the goal or save, they can do it in a millisecond without thinking. And I put it to you that really learning the English language is somewhat akin to that. Your child, or you, if it might be you that's got some snags around English, you need to take it on the chin and recognise that there are some gaps in the knowledge you have so far. Okay, great, that's not an issue. You have some gaps in the knowledge you have so far in English, and address it. And if it's your children, yeah, they've got an opportunity. It's practice. It's practice. When I'm working with the clients I work with, I only work with them for, say, an hour, 2 hours, sometimes it's 3 hours a week. But every other hour that they're at home with their friends, with their family, that's when the practice that we do goes forward. And in some ways, what's happening is when we are working together, all we're doing really is checking that all the other hours they've had when they're at home have been successful. That's why we'll often be banging out extra papers to be done, different days of the week coming back to us just to check that the extra work they're doing is successful. Since an hour a week, not a lot really. So practice. The key thing is practice. The difference between learning English and say a scientific subject, and maths is the prime scientific subject, is maths is horizontal, lots of different sections of subjects. With English, all the way across, it's like a sea, like a tidal wave. So you have to learn. You can't avoid learning the rules. You can't avoid learning the spelling. You can't avoid learning when letters need to be replaced. But if your children can get this right at the earlier ages, it's going to make it so much easier for them as they progress through firstly their education, and then on to work, whether they leave at say 16, 17, 18 or roll on further into further education, whichever way they go. If they're in England, they're going to need to have a good use of the English language, written, spoken, being able to interpret what's being asked, and to be able to learn the nuances and so on. So take that as knowledge and information to impart into your children's luggles. Get them to embed that thought. They have to learn as wide a vocabulary as possible, as flexible as possible, and then they can, like watching a tennis player at Wimbledon or watching a footballer at World Cup, Euro Cup as it is now. The skills they've got have come from thousands of hours of practice. Your children need to practice too. There's no way around it. If you're going for an entrance exam, most are oversubscribed by a factor of 5 or 6 or 7, and you can bet your bottom dollar those parents will have been ensuring that their children have been practicing. And for you to get your child into that same school, there's no real way around it. They've got to practice. Maths is one of those skills that sometimes children just get. They just ace it. But English, it's a bit of a slog. There's no way around it. Drill, drill, drill. The results, though, speak for themselves. So, Giles signing off for now. Speak to you soon. Cheerio.